What if the most powerful and healing foods on earth were already recommended in the Bible and not invented by modern science? They were. Not created in a lab, not artificially developed, not sold in capsules. People simply ate these foods, and everyone knew what worked. Not because they had data, but because they observed results. People knew what helped others recover, what kept them full during times of famine, what gave strength when food was scarce. Knowledge from the Bible that people kept coming back to, passed down through generations, again and again. Thousands of years ago, people relied on foods that still exist today. Foods that help you recover, stay strong, and survive under difficult conditions. And now, science is slowly catching up. The strange part? Most of these foods have always been here. Still simple, still affordable, still ignored. And by the end of this video, your view of your food will completely change. We've been taught that healing is complicated. Formulas, numbers, and analysis. Things that sound scientific enough to trust. But for most of human history, none of this existed. No supplements, no labels, no industry. So why do the same foods keep appearing across ancient texts, survival cultures, and biblical traditions? Why were these simple ingredients trusted for thousands of years? And why is modern science now confirming that many of them do far more than simply feed the body? Because once you start looking closely, you begin to see a pattern. In this video, I'll show you 14 biblical superfoods that are still here today. Foods linked to strength, resilience, and long-term health. And some of them are far more powerful than they look. Stay with me, because the first one didn't just feed people, it helped build entire civilizations. These foods weren't chosen randomly. They kept appearing because they worked, across regions, across generations, across completely different cultures. So let's start with one that's probably already in your kitchen, but used to be something far more important. Olive oil, before olive oil became a healthy fat. It was survival, food, fuel, medicine, light. In the ancient world, olive oil wasn't optional. It was used daily, for cooking, for skin, for wounds, even for lamps. And now modern research confirms what people already experienced. Extra virgin olive oil contains polyphenols, vitamin E, and monounsaturated fats, linked to reduced inflammation, cardiovascular health, and longevity patterns seen in Mediterranean populations. One compound, oleocanthal, has been shown to act in ways similar to anti-inflammatory drugs. But here's what most people miss. Ancient olive oil wasn't refined. It wasn't blended. It wasn't stored for months. It was fresh, cold-pressed, almost bitter. And that bitterness, that's where the active compounds live. This wasn't just oil. It was a daily, functional medicine, hidden in plain sight. 2. Raw honey. Honey looks simple. It isn't. Across ancient texts, honey is consistently associated with strength, clarity, and life. Modern research shows raw honey has antimicrobial properties and has even been used in clinical wound care settings. It creates an environment where many harmful bacteria cannot survive. But everything depends on one word: raw. Because once honey is heated or filtered heavily, you begin to destroy the enzymes and compounds that make it biologically active. What remains may still taste sweet, but it's no longer the same food. In its original form, honey was stable, portable, and reliable. It didn't spoil. It provided fast energy. And it offered protection against infection. That's why it traveled with soldiers, traders, and entire civilizations. 3. Figs. Here's something most people overlook. Figs weren't just eaten. They were applied. In biblical accounts, figs were used directly on wounds, a practice that seems unusual today, but reflects a deeper truth. Food and medicine were once deeply connected. Figs contain fiber, minerals, and natural sugars that support digestion, recovery, and energy. They're especially rich in pectin, a soluble fiber that helps keep your gut healthy. In a world without supplements, that mattered. Fresh figs provided immediate nourishment. Dried figs provided long-term stability. They were compact, functional, and reliable. And most importantly, they worked. 4 dates. If you needed energy fast, you didn't experiment. You reached for dates. Dates provide natural sugars like glucose and fructose that enter the bloodstream quickly. But unlike refined sugar, they also contain fiber, potassium, magnesium, and antioxidants. So instead of spiking your system, they support it. That's why travelers carried them, why they survived long journeys, why they were used to break fasts. Modern research has explored their role in energy balance, oxidative stress, and even late-stage pregnancy outcomes. But ancient people didn't need studies. They needed results, and dates delivered them every time. 5 pomegranates. Pomegranates were symbols of life, and now science is uncovering why. They contain powerful polyphenols linked to vascular health, inflammation reduction, and oxidative stress control. Compounds like punicalagins are being studied for their biological effects. But what makes pomegranates different isn't just chemistry. It's behavior. You don't eat them passively. You open them. You slow down. You engage. Ancient diets weren't built for convenience. They were built for function. And pomegranates reflect that perfectly. 6 lentils and lentils fed entire civilizations. They weren't exciting. They were essential. High in protein, iron, fiber, and minerals. They provided stable energy and long-term nourishment. They were shelf-stable, easy to prepare, reliable under pressure. Modern research confirms that legumes support blood sugar stability, gut health, and longevity patterns. But the real lesson is simple. The strongest diets in history were built on consistency, not trends. 7 barley was the food of ordinary people, but it contains one of the most studied fibers in nutrition, beta-glucan, linked to cholesterol balance, blood sugar stability, and gut health. Barley provides slow, sustained energy, without the crash associated with refined grains. It grows easily, stores well, feeds many. Simple food, extraordinary function. And this is where things change, because up to this point, everything makes sense. But the next foods are the ones most people have completely forgotten. 8 ancient wheat. Ancient wheat wasn't the problem. The process changed. Ancient grains like einkorn and emmer were different, but just as important was how they were prepared. Slow fermentation. This process breaks down compounds, improves digestibility, and increases nutrient availability. Modern bread is fast. Ancient bread was slow, and that difference changes how the body responds. 9 garlic. Garlic was so valued. People mourned losing it. That tells you everything. When crushed, garlic forms allicin, a compound studied for antimicrobial, cardiovascular, and immune support effects. Garlic has been linked to reduced blood pressure, improved lipid profiles, and infection resistance. It was used raw, cooked, preserved, in every possible way. Not as a supplement, as food. Daily. 10 cumin. Cumin was never just flavor. It supported digestion, metabolism, and internal balance. Modern research has explored its antimicrobial effects, its role in digestion, and its influence on blood sugar. It also provides iron and bioactive compounds. But what makes cumin powerful is how it was used. Daily. Consistently. Without effort. 11 hyssop. Hyssop appears in purification rituals. But it wasn't just symbolic. It contains compounds similar to those found in thyme and oregano. Plants known for antimicrobial activity. Traditional uses included cleansing, respiratory support, and topical applications, which suggests something deeper. Ancient practices often had functional roots, even when they appeared ritualistic. 12 almonds. Almonds are one of the most nutrient-dense foods available, rich in vitamin E, magnesium, healthy fats, and fiber. They support heart health, satiety, and metabolic balance. They're compact, stable, efficient. Modern research links almond consumption to improved lipid profiles, blood sugar control, and gut health. This is food designed for endurance. 13 fish was a foundational protein source, especially fatty fish, rich in omega-3 fatty acids like EPA and DHA. These fats are essential. The body cannot produce them. They support brain function, cardiovascular health, and inflammatory balance. And in the ancient world, fish was simple: grilled, fresh, unprocessed, which preserved exactly what made it valuable. 14. Carob is one of the most overlooked foods on this list, but it may be one of the most practical. Rich in fiber, minerals, and natural sugars. Carob provides stable energy and digestive support. It stores well, travels well, survives harsh environments. Historically, it was used in both nutrition and digestive care, and when paired with honey, it creates a complete functional system. Energy, stability, protection. Sometimes the foods that last the longest matter the most. So what do all these foods have in common? They're simple, minimally processed, observed, not engineered.